other aspects of government than Richard Nixon was under President Eisenhower. He has done the same sort of assignment as Nixon did for Eisenhower. That is to say, he has been a goodwill emissary abroad, but he has also been, and this has been very important, an emissary in terms of the president's own program on Capitol Hill. This will stand him in extremely good stead. He is a man who has prestige. He has been in Washington since he was a congressman many, many years ago as the protege of Sam Rayburn during the early Roosevelt years, so that he knows the Capitol inside and out. One has to speculate and conjecture at this point that the Johnson program on the whole will be almost a carbon copy of the Kennedy program, and that after the shock of the president's death is over and the Congress gets back to work, one conjectures that the speed of the wheels of Congress will be some higher in velocity than they have been up to now. This is Edward P. Morgan in Washington.
ABC News has canceled all its regularly scheduled programs for the rest of the day and will remain on the air until at least 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. The Dallas Sheriff's Department said a rifle had been found in a staircase on the 5th floor of a building near the scene of the assassination. It was a 7.65 Mauser. The German-made Army rifle had a telescopic sight with one shell left in the chamber. 3 spent shells were found nearby.
It is Friday afternoon. President Kennedy is dead. Lee Harvey Oswald is at Dallas Police Headquarters. Texas Governor John Connally is undergoing surgery at Parkland Hospital. And at Channel 8, Program Director Jay Watson and Assistant News Director Bert Shipp are on the air with the first film of the weapon used to kill the president.
Jay Watson along with Bert Shipp of WFAA TV in Dallas. We would like to be able at this time to bring you up to date on Governor Connally's condition at the hospital, but it's off. We have not, as of now, been able to get any word from there. Our crew is standing by. We have our remote cruiser there, and as soon as anything happens, that will be on the air as soon as some word comes out exactly the condition of Governor Connally. We have a piece of film we would like to show you now. Bert Shipp is our chief photographer and assistant news director of WFAA television. This is... well, roll the film, Bert, and if you would narrate it, please, so they can move up there a little bit.
All right, Jay, this is that rifle that was shown minutes ago on the network. They dusted it for fingerprints from the, while it was still up in the building. And you'll see the detectives gathering and gathering their evidence. Tom Allier, one of our reporters and photographers, shot this film. He has just now managed to get out of the building because of the close security around it. You'll see stacks and stacks of books at this
get it up
this
there.
Big
Get it up there.
many-story building, and they actually found some chicken bones in there. We'll see a picture of that in a minute. Now the film starts getting a little bad. Looks like Tom lost his loop. But this is the inside of the building where the sniper was. There's the detectives. They've got it all downstairs now, trying to regroup after being stunned by this. There's one of the lights. The policeman that had some hard times. They're combing the building thoroughly. Dusting everything. Like I say, this is the first time we've even seen the film. The fellow had a soft drink while he waited for the president to drive by.
No telling how long he was there, huh, Bert?
No, there isn't. He had lunch there. They know that. Chicken bone, soft drink bottle. And that's about it, Jay. I'm sorry I don't know any more about it, but like I say, our man's on his way in. We had about 8 or 10 photographers out around the city, and these boys.
I understand we have some more coming up here.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is...
That shot from inside the building.
Yeah.
This film was thrown out one of the windows. The building is closed up. No one can come in or leave the building, and this was tossed out the window and developed in the last 10 or 15 minutes here and on the air. Also standing by, coming in the front door now here, we'll be on the air in just a moment, are some interviews with the people in Dallas and their reaction to this tragic thing that happened just a few minutes ago, or just a very short time ago. The president seemed in a wonderful mood. His speech this morning, that was at 9 o'clock in Fort Worth, he was given the Texas hat, and you know which one that is, the wide hat, a pair of cowboy boots. Mrs. Kennedy was given a pair of cowboy boots. He stood out in front of the Texas Hotel in Fort Worth, talked to 7,000 or 8,000 people, and in his usual manner always went over and shook hands with the people. He arrived at Love Field at approximately 11:35 to 11:40 this morning. Was in a great mood, and once again moved over to the fence where he was not supposed to be.
This is Ship.
Moved into the procession downtown, and at 12:35 fatally shot and died at 1 o'clock. There are a great many reactions in Dallas now. The main thing that we're concerned with is the condition of Governor Connally. We will have that word for you just as soon as possible. As we understand it, there is no word coming out of the hospital. There is no way that we can get any information for you.
Be about 15 minutes, Jay. Our cruiser is at the hospital entrance, and Conley's doctor will come out in about 15 minutes to make a statement, give a report, and a condition on the governor.
Very good. That's the latest word. That in 10 or 15 minutes we will have word for you. Right now,
Picture of the man who shot the policeman.
here is a picture of the man who allegedly shot the policeman.
We'll have a statement from the hospital in 15 minutes from the hospital. Team's on the line.
This is the gentleman who allegedly shot the policeman, and a few moments ago on ABC, you saw the films of him being arrested, exclusive films here on ABC. We're all asking ourselves the question, why Dallas, Texas? What happened? Who could have possibly been so deranged to commit such a crime? We are stunned. The people of our city are completely stunned. There is no work going on. Our city is at a standstill, as you have seen around the country on ABC. The entire nation is presently at a standstill. Let me check with our... All right, now this is the on-the-scene location film that we would like to roll for you. Once again, these are the shots taken by our photographers up and down the street. You can see the wonderful mood everyone was in. This is looking down Main Street in Dallas, Texas. The flags draped. The young people were out of school to see the President of the United States. The youngsters of all ages. There comes the motorcade preceding the President. The car in the middle there is also filled with police officers. There's the President of the United States. Now, in just a moment, we'll have the exact, this is going under the, there is the exact place where the gunman was shot. This is a picture of the building where it's believed that the gunman was, the officer crawling in. A few minutes ago, we saw the films of the inside of the building. It's believed that he could have been there 2 or 3 days. There was remains of where he'd been eating and living for a few days. The outside of the book depository. Now, immediately after these films were shot, the President was rushed to the hospital. He was supposed to go to the trademark and make an address at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. In his speech, he had planned to speak out in Dallas against purveyors of gloom. The text prepared for the luncheon called on Americans to pay less attention to those who, as the text stated, expressed opposition without alternatives, find fault but never favor, seek influence without accepting responsibility. He spent the night last night in Fort Worth. It was raining. He arrived there, I believe, Bob, about 11:45.
Yes, he was a bit late.
And the reaction in the crowd was wonderful. He had a beautiful turnout. The same way this morning when he arrived at Love Field. The turnout was, as he expressed to newsmen, he was more than pleased with the with the turnout, and also up and down Main Street today in the films you have just seen. They were beautiful films. Beautiful reaction from the city of Fort Worth and the city of Dallas until 12:35 today.
Jay, I have something to read here. It's a statement from the Dallas Citizens Council, the Dallas Assembly, and the Science Research Center, which sponsored his visit here today. Our hearts are filled with sorrow, as are those of every citizen of the United States, at the tragic and untimely death of President John F. Kennedy and the serious wounds suffered by the governor of our state. We are deeply distressed and grieved that the respectful and enthusiastic welcome in progress for our president was terminated by an act of lunacy. And it's signed by Mr. J.E. Johnson, President, Dallas Citizens Council, Mr. W. Dawson Sterling, President, Dallas Assembly, Dr. Lloyd Berkner, President, Science Research Center.
Charles Bream, a 38-year-old Dallas man, was standing in the crowd at curbside about 15 feet away when the president's car approached. He gave his version. Mr. Kennedy was waving, and the first shot hit him, and that awful look crossed his face. The president's body was carried from the hospital in a bronze casket, and we have a picture of that for you now. Here is a picture of the body being removed. It was accompanied by Mrs. Kennedy. It was placed in a white hearse, and the drapes were pulled. White House Secretary Malcolm Kilduff said the body will be flown to Washington. It's on its way now, as I understand. White House officials stood sorrowfully looking stunned in corridors and in the waiting rooms. For almost an hour, rumors flew around the hospital where the president was alive or not. At 1:55, a priest said that he was still living. Then came the official announcement that John Fitzgerald Kennedy, 35th President of the United States, was dead. Blood was wiped from the presidential limousine as it was parked outside the hospital's emergency entrance, and a yellow group of flowers presented to Mrs. Kennedy Airport lay on the floor in the back of the car. We have some videotape now that we'd like to roll for you that Bob and I will narrate. We are not exactly sure what it is. It just arrived. It's threaded up on the machine. So let's roll the tape and see what we have.
Okay, stand by.
This is Ed Hogan of WFAA-TV. We are at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas, with the mobile cruiser of WFAA-TV. The picture on your screen now, the flag of Parkland Hospital at half-mast. The ambulances possibly bringing in injured here at their usual day's work at Parkland Hospital. Panning now around, you can see the grounds of the hospital. A moment ago, 30 or 40 gentlemen, probably of the press, boarded a bus just to the left of right where the camera is following right now, and boarded this special chartered bus. We imagine they are the press riders who were here for the parade and luncheon and all of the festivities that have suddenly turned into this terrible turmoil upon the death of our President Kennedy. The people standing here, lining the walks and the driveways of Parkland Hospital, are stunned, just as all of us are, beyond belief. But it's unbelievable that the President of the United States is dead.
Here's a shot of the outside of the hospital, and in just a few moments we will have some interviews of the people of Dallas. This word regarding Governor Connally: the governor's office said doctors have opened John Connally's chest and found several broken ribs and a bruised lung. They said the lung was collapsed by the bullet but had been reinflated. Doctors report no serious artery damage to the governor's heart. He'll be in the operating room till about 4:30 p.m. That's Central Standard Time, and then will undergo surgery for his leg wound. Connally's pulse and blood pressure reported all right at 2:30 p.m. Now, we will have a further report in just a few minutes as soon as it is made from the hospital. The Governor Connally, it's the first I have heard that he I knew that he was shot in the stomach, but I did not know that he had a wound in the leg. I know I was standing about 100 yards from where it happened, facing the other way. I distinctly remember 3 blasts of the gun, but there might have been 2 blasts at one time, you know, so you could only hear 3. But I know there were 3 reports, so this could be one of those.
Channel 8's mobile video cruiser has arrived at Parkland Hospital. President Kennedy's body has been taken to a local funeral home and soon will be on its way back to Washington. At Parkland, Texas Governor John Connally is still in surgery where doctors work to save his life.
Now we have some more videotape. Let's see what it is.
This is Ed Hogan of WFAA Television in Dallas, Texas. We are standing on the grounds of Parkland Hospital where President Kennedy was brought just a few hours ago and has died, as most of you have already know. We want to possibly talk to some of the people here who are standing. What is your name, please?
Mrs. Quincy Adams.
Mrs. Quincy, are you from Dallas, Miss Adams?
Yes.
How does this affect you?
Well, it's just a complete shock, and I think it's just means a doom for our country.
Well, it's a terrible thing, and it's shaken up and shocked everybody.
Well, it has, and I think Dallas will never get over this.
Thank you very much. May I speak with you, please? I'm Ed Hogan of WFAA TV. If you'd turn around this, what is your name, please?
Mrs. Schofield.
Mrs. Schofield, how do you feel on this?
Pretty terrible about it. We're from Loveland, Colorado. We're just down here for today. Just got down.
Oh, you are?
I have a daughter bad sick.
Hospital here. It's all broke up over a hit and run accident the other day.
Well, I'm awfully
sorry. That's what we're trying to get in now to see her.
Well, I'm awfully sorry.
I just feel terrible about this. I just think it's one of the most terrible things that's ever happened.
It certainly is that, and thank you so much for speaking with us. May I ask your name, please?
Lanny Kimsey.
I see you're wearing a banner, Lanny. Colts. I wonder if you have a football game tonight.
Yes, sir.
I would imagine. What school do you go to?
Cary.
To Cary School here
Cary.
in Dallas?
Yes, sir.
How do you feel? What is your reaction to this terrible thing that has happened to our president?
Well, I just can't see why anybody would want to shoot Mr. Kennedy for all the things he's done for us and tried to keep us from getting into war and everything.
I see. And who is this with you here?
Don Myers.
What's your name?
Don Myers.
Don, how do you feel on this terrible day?
I just think it's just a shame because, I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to kill him.
Thank you very much for speaking with us. We might get over here. What is your name, please?
Gary Verts.
Gary Verts?
Uh-huh.
And Gary, are you from Dallas?
Yes, I am.
How do you feel? What is your reaction to this terrible thing that has happened?
Well, it's a bad thing that's happened. I think it shouldn't have happened here, really, because it's going to give this place a real bad name.
Thank you very much. I believe right now this is about all the people that we have here within the proximity of our length of cord on the microphone, but we will repeat. We're standing on the grounds of Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas, Texas, where just a few hours ago the President of the United States was brought. His body was brought here after an assassin's bullet, a sniper, took away his life at a very early age of 45 years.
While people outside the hospital are in shock, doctors inside Parkland continue to work on Texas Governor John Connally. A short while later, the governor's press secretary, Julian Reed, has information concerning the governor's condition.
This is Ed Hogan, WFAA TV in Dallas. We're awaiting the arrival of Dr. Robert Shaw, the attending surgeon of Governor Connally, who will give us in just a few moments the latest on the condition of Governor Connally. He's about to make his entrance here in the press room on the main floor of Parkland Memorial Hospital. An earlier press conference that was held, Dr. Shaw described the condition. And now we will immediately, in just a few moments, hear the latest on the condition.
Further word for you on Governor Connally's condition.
I've just talked with Dr. Shaw, who visited with you earlier. The governor is just finishing up in the operating room. He has been in there since 1:30, which means he will have almost 4 hours in the operating room. He is continuing in a satisfactory condition. The doctor is pleased. He says all damage has been arrested at this point, and at this point we need only await supporting care. He will be moved in just a few minutes to the recovery room. A room just adjacent to him already has been set up for Mrs. Connolly, who will remain there overnight and indefinitely. The governor has a cast on his wrist, or will have. It is now in process of being applied. Yes, sir.
Is he conscious now?
He is regaining consciousness at this time.
What kind of bullet was it?
I do not know.
They're asking what type of bullet it was. Julian Reed with Governor Connolly
Has arrived. Large portion of the Connolly family. His mother, Mrs. J.B. Connolly, is present, along with brothers Merrill, Stamford, Wayne, and Godfrey Connolly. Godfrey, G-O-L-F-R-E-Y. Merrill, M-E-R-R-I-L-L. Stamford, S-T-A-M-F-O-R-D.
M like a nobody, or M like a mother.
M. Wayne, Godfrey, Sister Blanche, Godfrey, G-O-L-F-R-E-Y. Sister Blanche, who lives here in Dallas, and son Johnny.
That's his oldest son.
That's Mrs. Blanche Klein.
K-L-I-N-E.
K-L-I-N-E. Yes, sir. Eon Klein.
Johnny's his oldest son.
Johnny is his oldest son. The other two children, Sharon and Mark, are remaining for the time being at the mansion in Austin. They possibly will join him later in the weekend.
Does the governor know that the president is dead?
He does not, as far as we know.
He was asked if the governor knew if the president was dead. He said he did not
sir,
know.
I wouldn't attempt to do that. The doctor did a little earlier.
What part of his body was he wounded in?
Well, basically, the bullet entered in the back, penetrated the body. Based on the doctor's reconstruction, it came out in front, apparently grazed and fractured his wrist, and the bullet was spent and remained embedded in the thigh. Correct?
Which thigh?
Left. Sharon. S-H-A-R-O-N.
They're asked for the ages of the children.
Sharon is 13. Mark is 11. Are there any further questions?
Will there be any further communiques?
We will.
Will there be any further
communique?
Will there be any further communiques? Has been asked
I would say
by one of the
about,
reporters.
7 o'clock.
Another communique will be held around 7 o'clock, and that will be a final communique unless something else is indicated. So 7 o'clock will be the final communique
Yes,
for tonight.
For your information, gentlemen, we are in the process at this moment of setting up a press office here. And we will have a telephone installed, and we'll be able to service you tonight, tomorrow, we hope in a satisfactory manner.
What do we do, call?
He has not, as far as we know, been informed of the president's death. He has not yet regained consciousness after the operation.
Is there any nerve damage?
Well, it's been asked any
no
nerve
evidence of
damage.
nerve damage. The doctor tells us that as nearly as can be determined at this time, there, in all probability, will be no permanent disability of any type, hopefully.
Wasn't there one broken rib?
Was asked, wasn't there one broken ribs? And Julian Reed has answered there are several shattered ribs. This has been an interview with Julian Reed, who is with Governor Connolly's party, and he is giving the statement from Dr. Robert Shaw, the surgeon, on the very latest condition of Governor Tom Connolly here at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Reed has asked, is there any plan to move him to another hospital? Has been asked.
The question was raised earlier, Tony. I do not know of any plan at the present time. The doctor indicated that he would like to see him remain here for a period of some 10 to 14 days.
Yes, that's what he said.
But this obviously will be subject to the governor's own judgment.
What members of the governor's staff have been brought up here?
Here, he was traveling with the governor as I was traveling with the governor. And we hope to have a temporary operation functioning here by in the morning. Well, actually, we're already starting. Some of the telephones are already in. Where? I had not heard of the location. We have talked about setting up temporary offices.
They are speaking now of the possibility of setting up press offices other than this one
Are they
here.
already off? I know they already have started installing telephones.
As we mentioned before, this is Julian Reed, who was with Governor Connolly's party, the presidential party, this morning, and he has just given the latest statement from Dr. Robert Shaw, the attending surgeon who is doing the repair on Governor Connolly.
Thanks, fellas. We'll see you at 7.
Thank you very much, and that concludes the very latest communique on the condition of Governor Tom Connolly. Ed Hogan, WFAA TV Dallas at Parkland Memorial Hospital.
Shortly after the report you just saw was aired, Dr. Robert R. Shaw completed surgery on Governor Connolly. Dr. Shaw then came down to answer reporters' questions concerning the governor's condition.
I'm Dr. Robert R. Shaw, professor of thoracic surgery at Southwestern Medical School. Because of my position, I accepted the responsibility of taking care of Governor Connolly following his injury. I want to say at the outset that the condition of the governor is quite satisfactory in view of the injury that he has sustained. He seemed to have been struck by just one bullet, which entered the right posterior chest, close to the shoulder blade, and coursed downward along the chest wall, taking out and fragmenting a portion of the 5th rib on the right. The bullet then emerged from the chest, evidently struck his right wrist, fracturing the lower portion of the right radius, and then entered the left thigh where it was spent. The thigh wound is trivial. The fracture of the radius should heal without difficulty or without further disability. Our major problem was the sucking wound of the right chest wall, because in making the wound of the chest, the fragments of the 5th rib became what we refer to as secondary missiles, and these caused a considerable amount of tissue damage in the point where the missile emerged from the chest. When the wound had been enlarged in order to remove damaged tissue, the lung could be inspected. It was found that there was a tear in the middle lobe of the lung, which had to be repaired. There was also a small hole in the lower lobe, undoubtedly due to a small rib fragment. This was of no consequence. The major problem was a matter of completely controlling all bleeding points, removing all damaged muscle and tissue, and then securing a tight closure of the chest wall so that the right lung could be re-expanded. The governor's condition was good during all of this. He was perfectly lucid before anesthesia was started. And from what we know about his injury and his condition at the present time, we have no reason to believe that he won't completely recover without significant disability of any sort.
Now reporters who are standing here have asked for questions.
Will be required to stay in the hospital here.
Want to know how long he will be required to stay.
He will be in the hospital. It will be determined more by the clearing of the bruise to the right lung, and I would estimate that this would be in the neighborhood of 10 to 14 days. This doesn't mean that this injury will be completely clear by this time, but at least we should have a good idea as to the trend of the clearing. The trend of the clearing, whether it is clearing or not. Yeah.
They asked the governor, a reporter asked if the governor knew the president was dead. He said they didn't tell him.
No.
They're now asking, is he out of surgery and resting comfortably in his room?
Taking care of the compound fracture of the right radius. As soon as that is finished, he will be taken to the recovery room where he will be carefully watched until he has regained all of his vital signs. Now, his vital signs are good now, but we like to observe them for a period of time. This is a routine measure until blood pressure is stable, respirations are satisfactory, and until the governor is fully recovered from the anesthesia. In other words, he's fully conscious, responding rationally to questions.
They're asking now if a bullet was found in his leg.
The bullet is in the leg. It hasn't been removed. This is a very insignificant factor, though. It will be removed. Left eye. But there's no significant injury to the left thigh. Before he goes to the recovery room.
It was asked, when will it be removed? They're now asking, will he stay at this hospital? The doctor says it will be advisable. Has it been definitely determined one bullet?
Really a reconstruction of what must have happened, but assuming, of course, that we know that the governor was in a sitting position. We know that the wound of entrance is alongside the shoulder blade here, that the wound of exit was here. We speculate that his arm perhaps was about in this position, and that it fractured his arm here, and then went on with him sitting into his left thigh. This is a matter of trying to reconstruct the trajectory of the bullet. He was shot from above, and he was in a sitting position. So we feel that this is all one bullet. That no, that's.
The question was asked, did the lung collapse?
Collapsed. However, don't stress that point. The lung can be easily re-expanded. It's like a balloon. You can let it down and blow it up again.
What are the chances of complications for a man his age?
The lung is now re-expanded.
Was he given a large quantity of blood?
Was he given a large quantity of
The governor
blood?
had lost approximately 1,500 cc's of blood. We counted in units, 500 cc's to a unit, and this is what has been given back to him.
How much is 1,500 cc's?
Quart and a half.
Sir, we missed the early part of your diagnosis and your explanation. Would you do it once more for us, please? His general condition, when he was, how long he will be here?
We're still asking questions of Dr. Robert Shaw from the press room of Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas. Ask if he said anything.
He said nothing more, however, than an injured man will say. He said that it hurt, and don't press too hard in this position and so forth. But he made no statements other than the statements of a normal human being who has sustained an injury.
Did he remain conscious? The doctor says perfectly.
No. Not in my presence. I wasn't there all the time.
Do you anticipate any permanent damage, Doctor?
Do you anticipate any permanent damage? The answer is no, he does not. Was Ms. Connolly with him before he went under the anesthesia?
She was not with him during the time that I saw Governor Connolly. However, she was just outside the door, and I talked to Mrs. Connolly before the governor was taken to surgery and told...
You have been viewing and listening to Dr. Robert Shaw, the attending surgeon on Governor Connolly here in Parkland Memorial Hospital. They're now actually just repeating for another cameraman because he missed the first portion of the press interview. This is from a makeshift press room here in Parkland Memorial Hospital.
In a brief ceremony aboard Air Force One, Lyndon Johnson was sworn in as the 36th president of